You know, some years ago, I was trying to think what year it was. It was 2004. Young man from the Torres Straits, a man called Stephen Abala. You may remember the story. It was actually featured, I think, on 60 Minutes. Young man, he's 13 years of age. And they're sailing in the Torres Straits between two islands, and the boat hits a reef and begins to sink. His dad, it was actually an Assemblies of God pastor. And the boat begins to sink, and the dad's in the water, and he says to Stephen, there's a mum, the dad, a baby, and two sisters. And the dad says, it's 7 kilometres to the next point of land. I can't swim that far. So he said, Stephen, it's your responsibility to take care of the rest of the family. The dad drowns, the mum drowns, the baby drowns. But Stephen swims with his two sisters 7 kilometres, puts his 15-year-old sister on his back and swims the 7 kilometres. Drags them ashore, and for 2 days keeps them alive, swims over to other islands, get water in coconut shells, brings them back. Hey, he was featured on 60 Minutes. And in fact, he was in the Courier Mail, July 17, 2004. And I was amazed. I rang the young man up and I said, you're an amazing young bloke. I said, how could you do that? And he said, well, Pastor, that's the way I was raised up. My father raised me up that if something happened, I'd become the man of the family. Let me read you a little example from the Brisbane Courier Mail. Faced with a similar scenario, almost any child of a similar age from a Western background would have perished helpless and traumatised. But the Badoo Islanders are taking a quiet pride in the achievement they know that few other Australian children, whatever their economic advantages and social opportunities, could ever hope to match. Stephen, whose calm assessment of the situation ensured the 3 survived, was a prime example of a traditional Torres Strait man. Not boy, not teenager. And it says here, his auntie says he was brave, he was strong, he knew that it was responsibility to take care of his sisters. He's a fine example of a young Torres Strait Islander man. I like that. I like that. You know, as I say, maybe we've done a disservice. I had a young man in my church before God. I tell you, he could preach. I tell you, he could preach. One of the best preachers I've ever heard. And he used to go to Indonesia regularly, go over, and he'd be away for 2 or 3 months, and he'd come back and, saw some people saved and things like that, and most of the church was, in awe. And when he was finished as a pastor, I'd say, now when you're finished with your ego trip, and if you can get your head through the door, I feel the love's going to come now. I said, I need to talk to you in my office. And I sat him down, I said, now while you're off doing your own ego trip, call it what you like, your wife's in my office crying her eyes out because you don't leave any money. And my church is feeding your wife and your kids. I said, if you don't stop what you're doing and get yourself a job, you're going to lose your family. He just said, oh, you're just jealous because I can preach better than you. So the spirit of slap came on me. I'll slap that boy. Hello. I said, I know it's a foreign concept, but I'm actually trying to be a father to you. I said, listen to me, mate. I said, I know the church. I said, but you and I both know you're in on an ego trip. And I said, if you want me to prophesy, I'll prophesy to you now. If you don't stop what you're doing and get a job, you're going to lose your family. He said, you don't even know what you're talking about. So the last time I saw him, true case, my church, I dragged him out of the Darwin Casino by the scruff of the neck, drunk as a monkey. They're no longer married. They're no longer in ministry. It doesn't matter how you're out. The devil will look for your Achilles heel. Is that right? He'll search until he finds your weak spot. And I'll never forget, his wife came and sat in my office and cried and cried. She said, I'm married to a big boy. She said, he knows nothing about responsibility. She said, I'm quitting and I'm going to get a job. She said, I'm leaving. She said, don't try to stop me. I never even tried to stop her. She said, I'm tired of my kids having to suffer because their father's a big boy. What does the Bible say? If a man doesn't provide for his own household, he's worse than an infidel.